Apache came begging for milk for her child. She breastfed the baby and became the mother he needed. The wind swept across the New Mexico plains like an old curse. Dry, restless, ancient. Dust rose in spirals, dancing across the road like spirits with nowhere left to go. And walking through that dust, slow and trembling, was a woman. Her feet were cracked, bare. Her braids hung loose over her shoulders. Her skin, dark, sun-scorched, spoke of deserts and bloodlines older than the land itself. But her eyes were what held everything. Desperation. Fire. Fear. She wasn't just a woman, she was a mother. And in her arms, wrapped tight in a faded rebozo, lay a baby no older than 3 moons. The baby whimpered, his lips dry and pale. He hadn't cried in hours, not properly. He was too weak. The woman's name was Nita. She was Apache. And for the last 3 days, she had been walking across the desert begging for a miracle. She reached the edge of a town just as the sun began to dip behind the hills. A forgotten town, barely a dozen wooden buildings and a crooked steeple. Dry Hollow, they called it. Where the hearts were harder than the ground they walked on. Nita stepped into the street, wobbling. Her legs nearly gave out. A few townsfolk stopped and stared, hands tightening on rifle stocks, eyes narrowing. "Please," she whispered, almost too soft to hear. "Milk. My son needs milk." She didn't scream. Didn't demand. She stood there with her baby, skin burned and bleeding, and begged. A woman on a porch sneered. "We don't have nothin' for your kind." Another man, tipping back his hat, spit on the ground. "Kid doesn't even look like he's yours. That boy's white. You steal him." Someone laughed, bitter and cruel. Another cocked a rifle, not pointed at her, not yet, but the sound was threat enough. Nita just lowered her gaze and held her baby closer. He didn't cry anymore. He barely moved. His breath came in shallow, fluttering little gasps. She turned, ready to walk back into the dust and die. Then a voice called out. "Wait." A woman stepped down from the church steps. Slender, pale, worn. Gray dress, soft hands, kind eyes that had seen too much. Her name was Clara Whitlow, and she had buried more dreams than she dared to count. "Give me the child," Clara said. Nita didn't move. She was shaking. "He needs milk," she said. "Then I'll go." Clara looked her in the eyes, then down at the baby, then back again. "Come with me." The townsfolk were stunned. Clara, the widow who lived alone at the edge of town, the quiet one who always kept her doors closed, was letting an Apache into her home? They murmured. One of the men stepped forward. "You sure about this, Clara?" Clara ignored him. She walked to Nita, slowly, gently, and took the baby into her arms. The boy whimpered, then reached with instinctual need toward Clara's chest. Without a word, Clara turned and carried him inside. That night, the child nursed at Clara's breast while Nita sat by the fire, stunned. Her arms were empty for the first time in months. She felt a strange hollowness, like her ribs had turned to glass. "I lost my milk days ago," Nita whispered. "We were hiding, no food. No water." Clara nodded. "He'll live now. That's what matters." She said nothing more. Just rocked the child and sang to him, low and steady, an old hymn only half remembered. In the following days, Clara became a second mother to the child. She named him Samuel, though Nita whispered his real name to him at night, Lemus, meaning rain light, in Apache. The town didn't forget. They watched. They judged. A few called Clara a traitor. Others said she had lost her mind. But none dared enter her house. Inside, the two women made a life. Nita cooked. She cleaned. She chopped firewood and mended torn linens. Clara nursed the baby, bathed him, held him close through fevered nights. And somehow, without saying it aloud, they became family. "You're not afraid of me?" Nita asked one night. Clara looked up from the baby. "No. I was afraid of being alone. Of never having someone to love again. You brought me back to life." Nita smiled. Softly. For the first time since the massacre. She had been running ever since the soldiers burned her village. They hadn't spared women or children. Her husband had died with a tomahawk in his hand. She had fled into the hills with her baby on her back. She never told Clara all the details. But she didn't need to. Clara had her own ghosts. A stillborn daughter. A husband who drank himself to death after the war. Both women carried scars. But they carried each other, too. Then the army came. Blue coats. Boots that crushed everything soft beneath them. A captain named Dalton, with sharp eyes and a sharper jaw. He came looking for a fugitive Apache woman accused of killing 2 men in Santa Rosa. "She has a half-white baby," he said. "About 3 months old. Word is, she's dangerous." The sheriff, a coward if there ever was one, pointed at Clara's house. Dalton knocked hard. Clara opened the door calmly, baby on her hip. "Yes. That child. Where'd you get him?" "He's mine." "You have papers?" "No. I have love." The captain stared. "The woman living with you, Apache? She's the child's nurse. Nothing more." "That's not what I heard." "Then you heard wrong." Behind the curtain, Nita listened in silence, heart pounding. She clutched a knife. But Clara never gave her up. Not even a glance. Eventually, the captain left. But everyone knew it wasn't over. That night, Clara handed Nita a folded letter. "If something happens to me, take this to my sister in Kansas. She'll protect you and the boy." Nita didn't want to hear it. "You're not going to die. I've made peace with it. I only ask one thing, raise him to be gentle. No matter what the world does to him." Nita wept. And Clara wept with her. They were not blood. But they were mothers, both. The fire came a week later. It started in the barn. Then the porch. Then the roof. Nita woke to smoke and shouting. Clara was already on her feet, cradling Samuel. "Take him," she shouted. "No. I won't leave you. You must. I'll hold them off." There were shadows outside. Men in hoods. Maybe townsfolk. Maybe soldiers. Maybe both. Nita wrapped the baby in blankets and kissed Clara's hand. "Thank you," she whispered. Clara smiled through the smoke. "Go. Live." Nita ran into the night. Behind her, the house burned. Years passed. In the wheat fields of Kansas, a boy with deep brown eyes helped his mother carry water from the well. "Why do I have 2 names, Mama?" he asked. "Because you're made of 2 things, hijo mío. Fire and rain. Blood and hope. Was I born here?" "No," she said softly. "You were born in the desert. But you were saved by an angel." Every year, on the same night, Nita lit a candle. She whispered Clara's name to the stars. And she told Samuel a story. Of a town that turned its back. Of a woman who opened her arms. And of the day he found 2 mothers, and kept them both in his soul. 20 years later. A storm was rolling in over the plains, the kind that dragged the past out from its grave. Thunder cracked above a quiet town in Kansas as a young man rode through the rain, his coat soaked, jaw set, eyes dark with something he couldn't yet name. Samuel Whitlow, now 21, tall, lean, with the deep eyes of his Apache mother and the stillness of his adoptive one, had returned from the war not as a boy but something else. Something more dangerous. He carried no medals. Just a letter found in the lining of a saddlebag that shouldn't have existed. A name scribbled in old ink, Dry Hollow. He hadn't heard that name since he was a child. Not since his mother, Nita, sat by candlelight and told him stories of angels and fire. But now, the letter, addressed to no one and everyone, spoke of lies, blood, and a woman named Clara who may not have died the way Nita said. Samuel hadn't told Nita he'd found it. He hadn't told her he was leaving. He needed the truth. Dry Hollow hadn't changed much. The buildings leaned like old men too proud to fall. The church steeple still clawed at the sky, though the bell had long since cracked. People stared at Samuel when he rode in, dark skin, sharp cheekbones, the way he moved like a wolf sizing up a pack. They didn't recognize him. But someone did. From the porch of the old general store, a man slowly stood, dropping a glass bottle. No, it can't be. Samuel dismounted and looked him in the eye. You knew her. Clara Whitlow. The man, gray-haired, shaking, nodded once. She burned. Years ago. Whole damn house went up. Apache which was with her. They say she cursed the town before fleeing with a stolen child. Samuel didn't blink. That stolen child was me. You could feel the air leave the porch. Inside the store, someone reached for a shotgun. I'm not here for revenge, Samuel said. I'm here for answers. You should go, the old man whispered. They don't forget here. And they don't forgive. Samuel stepped closer. Neither do I. That night, he broke into the church. Not to steal, but to find the ledgers. Clara's name wasn't in the death records. Not officially. He flipped through brittle pages, hands shaking. And then he found something odd, an entry, crossed out, for Clara Whitlow, dated 3 days before the fire. She died, before she died, he muttered. Behind him, a creak. Samuel turned fast, gun drawn. A figure stepped out from the shadows, small, cloaked, hood low. She never burned, the voice rasped. Samuel froze. What? The figure pulled back her hood. It was a woman. Native. Old, but fierce. Her eyes didn't age. I knew your mother. Both of them. You knew Clara. I saw what they did to her. Samuel's heart pounded. Tell me everything. The woman's name was Tolly. She had lived on the outskirts of Dry Hollow, an outcast from her own tribe, neither fully Apache nor fully welcome among whites. She had witnessed the fire. She had seen the men who lit it. Soldiers. But not just any soldiers, federal scouts paid off by the town council. Clara found something. About land. About gold hidden beneath this town. She threatened to expose them. They used Nita as bait to silence her. Samuel's fists clenched. They blamed the Apache, to cover their own crimes. And she didn't die in the fire, Tolly whispered. She was dragged out alive. Taken north. Put in a sanitarium under another name. Samuel reeled. She's alive. She was. Tolly reached into her cloak and handed him something wrapped in deer hide. He opened it. A gold locket. Inside, a photo, Clara. Holding baby Samuel. Smiling. She kept it until the day she died. 6 months ago. Samuel felt like the floor vanished beneath him. Why didn't anyone tell me? Tolly looked at him, solemn. Because the lie was easier than the truth. Back in Kansas, Nita felt something shift. Like a string had snapped far away, and the sound reached her chest. She waited. Days passed. Then Samuel returned. He was different. Not angry. Not bitter. But sharpened. Forged. She met him on the porch, the old rocking chair creaking behind her. "You went to Dry Hollow," she said. Samuel nodded. He pulled the locket from his pocket and placed it in her hand. Nita trembled. She had this. He sat beside her. "She didn't die in the fire, Mama. They took her. Silenced her. Because she knew the truth. About the land. About me." Nita held the locket to her chest. "I'm sorry I never told you more. You told me enough. You saved me." He looked at her. "Now it's my turn." In the weeks that followed, Samuel began to dig records, titles, deeds. Clara had owned land in Dry Hollow that mysteriously passed to the town after her death. That land sat on top of a dried-up mine rich in gold veins. The town had stolen it. Burned her for it. And now, Samuel had the proof. He filed a federal suit in Topeka. And then, he returned to Dry Hollow. With journalists. With lawyers. With truth. The townsfolk were furious. Some threatened him. Others spit at his feet. But the courthouse bell rang for the first time in 50 years. The case was heard. Testimonies were given. And when it was over, the judge declared the land, and its hidden fortune, belonged to Clara Whitlow's legal heir. Samuel. But he didn't keep the gold. Instead, he rebuilt Clara's house on the edge of town. Stone by stone. He opened a school there. 4 orphans. 4 runaways. 4 half-breeds like him. He named it the Rainlight School, after the name his mother whispered when he was a baby. And every night, before the last lantern was put out, he sat alone on the steps. And whispered. "Thank you, Clara. You gave me milk, but more than that, you gave me fire. You gave me truth." And somewhere, beyond the desert, 2 mothers smiled. It had been 2 years since Samuel Whitlow reclaimed the land that was stolen. 2 years since the courthouse doors groaned open and history was forced to look itself in the eye. Dry Hollow was no longer a secret. Reporters had come and gone. Politicians sent letters. But the town itself, its soul, remained cracked, dry, stubborn as ever. Some folks left. Others stayed, silent, watching as Samuel built something they didn't understand. The school had grown. 10 children. Then 20. Apache. Mexican. Orphaned. Abandoned. All of them carried pieces of the old world in their eyes. Samuel ran it with the grace of his mother's, Nita's strength, Clara's patience. He walked with their shadows behind him. But peace, as always, was a fragile thing in the West. And storms, like blood, have a way of finding their way back. It began with a letter. Folded. Dirty. No return address. It said only this. "You ain't the only Whitlow left." Samuel read it twice. Then he read it a third time. He didn't speak for hours after. That night, he stared at the fire until dawn. Nita found him at the hearth, the letter in one hand, his father's knife in the other. "You knew?" he asked. Nita didn't lie. "No. I thought Clara's husband was long dead. And if there was another child, she never told me. What if he's real? Then you'll face him." She placed a hand on his cheek. "But you face him as a man born of 2 women's love, not 1 man's blood." 2 weeks passed. Then he came. Jebediah Whitlow. A former Confederate soldier, left for dead in Tennessee, turned gunrunner and bounty hunter. He wore his family name like a rusted crown, and he carried something older than hate, entitlement. He arrived on a black horse, with 2 men behind him. Both armed. He walked into the school like it belonged to him. "So this is where the half-breed turned teacher plays house," he said, spitting tobacco into the dirt. Samuel stepped out, coat open, revolver at his side. "If you're looking for blood, you came to the wrong place." Jeb grinned. His eyes were sunburnt ice. "No. I came for what's mine." Samuel laughed once, dark and clean. "You mean what you abandoned?" "I mean the gold." He pulled a yellow deed from his coat. "Clara was my sister. And I have the papers to prove she was declared insane before death. That makes her holding subject to family claim. And I'm her only blood kin left." "You're nothing but bones and smoke," Samuel said. "And you? You're just an accident that lived." The town had gathered. The children stood behind the windows. Nita watched from the porch, her hand steady near the rifle. Samuel didn't blink. "You want the mine?" he asked. "I want everything. That house. That land. That name. Then you'll have to kill me for it." The square went silent. A crow called overhead. The sky had turned yellow. And then Jeb drew. Samuel was faster. 2 shots rang out. Jeb dropped to his knees, clutching his gut. "Not like this," he gasped. "Exactly like this," Samuel replied. "You came looking for gold. But all you found was the truth." Jeb died in the dirt. Face down. Like every ghost that refused to rest. Samuel didn't smile. He didn't speak. That night, he buried Jeb behind the chapel with no name on the grave. Just a stone. Then he lit a fire beside the school and sat alone. Nita joined him after the children were asleep. "It's done," she said. "No," he replied. "It never ends. But it changes." He pulled something from his coat. Clara's locket. He opened it. Inside, one photo had faded. The other hadn't. Samuel. As a baby. Held in Clara's arms. Her smile eternal. He placed it on the fire. The silver burned, slow and bright. "Let her go?" Nita asked. "No," he said. "Let her rest." 10 years later, Dry Hollow was gone. The land was renamed. The school had doubled in size. People came from across the country to study history not in books, but in truth. And Samuel Whitlow stood beneath a carved archway, now old enough to feel the weight of every name spoken before him. Nita had passed quietly, in her sleep. A candle at her side. A necklace of woven grass in her hand. She died with her head resting on Samuel's lap, and his tears in her hair. At her funeral, he said only one thing. "She gave me birth. Then she gave me mercy." The 2 women were buried side by side. Clara and Nita. A cross for one. A circle of stone for the other. Over both graves, a plaque read. "Here lie the mothers of Samuel Whitlow, milk and fire, sky and earth." And years later, when children asked him who he was, he never said teacher, or war veteran, or owner. He simply said, "Son." Of 2 women the world tried to burn. But couldn't. And under the desert sky, with the wind warm on his face, Samuel would look up, smile faintly, and whisper. "I was never stolen. I was chosen." Fade to black.